The world stood still the morning Diane Keaton's death was announced. Headlines screamed, social media flooded with tributes. And yet, in the middle of the storm, one face told the story words couldn't. Ali, Pacino's, the man who had embodied fire, rebellion, and power in every role, looked suddenly small, hollowed out by grief. Cameras caught him outside his home, eyes lowered. His trademark calm replaced with something raw, a deep, silent heartbreak that spoke of a love never truly let go. Reporters shouted questions, but he didn't answer. He simply walked past them, carrying a single white rose in his hand. That night, he appeared at the quiet memorial service. No entourage, no public statement, just a man visiting the ghost of his past. When he finally took the microphone, his voice broke before his first word. "They always asked me why I never married," he began, looking toward Diane's portrait with trembling hands, "and I never told the truth." Until now, the crowd fell silent. For decades, Pacino had been Hollywood's eternal bachelor, the man who lived for art and avoided attachments. But as he spoke, it became clear that this wasn't a matter of choice. It was the wound of a man who once loved too deeply to ever love again. "Diane wasn't just a co-star," he said softly. "She was my mirror, the only person who saw me. Not the actor, not the legend, just Al." Their connection began on the set of The Godfather, when both were still trying to prove themselves. Between takes, she would tease him, make him laugh in ways no one else could. She brought warmth into his world of perfection and pressure. She had this way, he recalled, of making the madness of fame feel like nothing. She reminded me I was human, but his fear of losing control, of being vulnerable, made him walk away when she wanted more. "I thought I was protecting my work," he confessed, "but I was really running from the one person who made me feel alive." Looking at her portrait, Pacino's voice grew faint. "I never married because I couldn't. After Diane, no one else felt real." A tear slid down his cheek as he placed the rose beneath her photo. "If I ever belonged to anyone," he whispered, "it was her. And I guess I always will." As Al Pacino continued speaking, the room felt suspended in time. The audience, old friends, co-stars, and quiet admirers watched a man shedding his armor after a lifetime of silence. "She told me once," he said, voice cracking, "you don't need to be perfect. Al, you just need to be present." I never understood that until now. His words drifted through the hall like a confession decades too late. Those who knew them could feel the weight of what had been lost. Two souls who had loved each other in the shadows of fame, but never found the courage to live it openly. He recalled their late-night talks after filming The Godfather, how Diane would sit barefoot on the floor, drinking tea, laughing about everything and nothing. "She didn't care about the fame, the scripts, the awards," Pacino said softly. "She cared about life, about people, about the small things. She used to say that love isn't about grand gestures. It's about staying when things get quiet." He paused, looking up at her portrait as if waiting for her to respond. "I never stayed," he whispered. "That's my biggest regret." Friends later revealed that Diane had never truly moved on either. Though she dated others, her heart carried a quiet ache for the man who'd walked away. Pacino's confession that night confirmed what many suspected. Their story wasn't a Hollywood romance. It was a human tragedy wrapped in glamour and time. "I thought marriage would tie me down," he admitted. "But truth is, I was already bound to her memory, to what we could have been." He described finding her letters after her passing, tucked inside a worn leather notebook. They were filled with warmth and humor, but one line pierced his soul. "You don't need to marry me, Al. Just remember me when the cameras stop." He swallowed hard before continuing. "I read that over and over, and I realized I never stopped remembering. Not for a single day." The audience sat still, some in tears, others in quiet awe, realizing they were witnessing something sacred. A man at last surrendering his truth. "I'll never marry," Pacino said finally, "because in every way that mattered I already did. It just didn't have a ring." When the memorial ended, most people drifted away in silence. But Al Pacino stayed behind. The candles had burned low, and the room smelled of wax and fading flowers. He sat in the front row, staring at Diane's portrait, the familiar smile that once lit up every corner of his world. "You were right, Annie," he murmured, using the nickname only he had ever called her. "You were the only one who ever saw the man behind the mask." His voice trembled, carrying both gratitude and unbearable regret. Later, a journalist quietly approached, asking why he'd chosen this moment to speak. Pacino didn't hesitate. "Because she deserves the truth," he said. "The world saw us as friends, colleagues, but she was my compass. I just didn't realize it until I lost her." He glanced down at his hands, the same hands that had held Oscars and scripts, now shaking with something far more precious: memory. "All my life," he continued, "I chased roles, fame, applause. She chased peace. And somehow she found it before I did." In the days that followed, Pacino withdrew from the public eye. No interviews, no appearances. Friends said he spent his time at home, rewatching old films, pausing at every scene where she smiled. He kept her letters by his bedside, reading them like prayers. "She was my unfinished sentence," he told one close confidant. "Every time I acted, I was really talking to her, asking her to forgive me." The world finally began to understand that his silence about marriage had never been pride or rebellion, but mourning, the quiet ache of a man who had once held love and let it slip away. Weeks later, he returned to the memorial garden, dressed simply, carrying no cameras or bodyguards. He placed a small note beneath her name. It read, "I finally understand what you meant. Diane, being present, that's love. And I'm here now." He stood there for a long moment, eyes wet before walking away into the dusk. For the first time in his legendary career, Al Pacino didn't play a role, he lived one. A man finally set free by truth, bound forever by love that never needed vows to be real. In the weeks that followed, Al Pacino's rare confession became the heartbeat of Hollywood. A whisper passed between those who had known him for decades. Headlines called it the greatest love story never told. But for Pacino, it wasn't about spectacle. It was about closure. Friends described a change in him, a stillness, almost a surrender. He stopped chasing new roles and instead spent quiet days at his home, surrounded by photographs of Diane Keaton. "I don't need to act anymore," he told a friend. "She taught me what real emotion feels like. Everything else was just pretending." Reporters begged for interviews, but Pacino refused. When he finally spoke again, it was in a brief, heartfelt video message. "I've spent a lifetime becoming other people," he said softly. "But the only time I felt truly myself was when Diane was around. She reminded me that love isn't about possession, it's about presence. I didn't marry her because I thought I had time. Turns out time doesn't wait for anyone." His words went viral, reaching millions who had watched their chemistry on screen but never realized how real it truly was behind the scenes. Younger actors began calling it Pacino's lesson, a reminder to value connection over fame. Fans from around the world left flowers outside Keaton's Hollywood star, with notes quoting his confession, "If you love someone, don't wait." For Pacino, this quiet tribute wasn't about reliving the past. It was about finally understanding it. "She never asked for forever," he said. "She just asked for now, and I didn't give it. But I can give her this, the truth." On what would have been Diane's birthday, Pacino visited her resting place once more. No cameras followed. He placed an old photo of them laughing on set and whispered, "I finally stopped running. Diane, you were home all along." The wind stirred gently, rustling the petals around him, as if the world itself sighed with him. As he turned to leave, his reflection in the marble seemed lighter, his steps steadier. Al Pacino, the legend who once feared love, had finally embraced it. Not in marriage, but in memory. And in that quiet truth he found peace.